Heidi Voss.
And I'm Bella Clementi.
And this is
the
Cool Views Podcast. She's doing it slow because I always do it slow. We have a special guest today. Her name is Pauline Kuzmano. Welcome, Pauline. She is a self-identified feminist badass.
Yeah,
badass feminist over here.
Oh yeah, baby. Oh, it's so good. I love that sweatshirt.
Hey guys.
Hey guys, welcome.
Happy to be here.
She's one of our good friends from our conservative Catholic high school. So I think that will be fun for us to talk about because we're very repressed from it and are learning and healing and growing as we go. So, we got to stay on trend with the Catholic, figuring out our homosexual tendencies, becoming gay, having different identities. But so welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
We're excited to have you on. And so it's so fun also just to be able to
connect about it and also connect about queerness because we were all straight in high school and so Pauline, we went to high school with Pauline and a bunch of other people, and it's just been really interesting to see so many people come out as not straight, as queer, or however they identify as, and it's so cool to be able to connect and bond over our experiences because our experiences were so separate because we weren't talking about it when it was happening to us, and then to come together and be like, oh my god, what it's just so bananas to me. So thanks for being on the show.
I know, thank you. Okay, so I'll start us off with a quote.
Yeah, let's start off with a quote.
We got a quote from the 2,548 Best Things Anybody Ever Said by Robert Byrne. This quote is 1,418. I am a marvelous housekeeper. Every time I leave a man, I keep his house. Zaza Gabor. Thank you, Zaza.
Knows what's up.
She knows what's up.
Zaza's a baddie.
She is a little baddie.
It's so good. And hopefully, well, no, I'm not going to say anything. Words to live by, though. Keep those houses, ladies.
Oh, definitely.
Keep those houses.
Keep everything.
Keep everything. You take it all. Actually, though, get out of there.
Yeah, and run and maybe explore a little bit.
Yeah.
We can say
that's what I wanted to say. I don't want to say something weird.
If you don't identify that way, you do not have to. But if you've ever questioned it and you're leaving your man, I highly recommend
meeting me. Coming out. Let's grab a drink.
Let's grab a drink sometime. So I think we'll start it off with how do you identify?
Pauline. Okay. Hey everyone. So it's funny, we actually had a conversation about this before coming in to the podcast, and I am most comfortable and identify most with the term queer. And I also sometimes feel uncomfortable owning that. Because for some reason, and there are reasons that I would love to talk about with you guys, when I heard the term queer, I most identified with it and really resonated with it. I love so many parts about it. I love that it is a term that can mean a lot of different things to different people. It can go along with me changing and flowing, and it doesn't pinpoint certain things that gives me more leeway, and also isn't attached to heteronormativity. It is something that feels separate from it, and it's something that resonates me as I'm trying to own my queerness and my space in that community and trying to separate from the heteronormative and own that. So queer is perfect and empowering and works. But I sometimes question whether I deserve it and whether I am sort of allowed to identify with it. When I tell people, like throughout my process of coming out and throughout my journey of sexcapades, people around me who love me and who have been with me, supporting me as I've talked to them about coming to realizations or coming to terms with my identity, I've gotten a lot of people saying, "Oh, so you're pansexual," or assuming I'm pansexual. And so that kind of makes me feel a little bit like, oh, it's something I should be identifying as pansexual because I started having sex in a heteronormative way and I appear very like heteronormative and don't necessarily appear outwardly queer, and people assume I'm pansexual. So that's something that makes more sense for me. That's something that I should be identifying with over queer. And after talking about it, I feel like, wait a second, like I keep convincing myself as I talk through it, like, no, I belong, I deserve to use the word queer, and I belong inside that space and that identity. And that's something I'm still coming to terms with. I think that it's something that's sort of trendy. I use that word tentatively, but like, I think that the queer community is something that like has gone through so much, right? And so of course people can get defensive, and of course people have opinions, and I feel like right now a lot of people are coming out identifying as queer and using that term. And I think that it's something that can feel scary, that you don't want people to think, oh, you're just hopping on the bandwagon, like is this valid for me? But I think that I'm coming to the conclusion that yes, it is valid and it doesn't really matter.
Exactly. It doesn't matter. Yeah. And it is just, I think, a good way of coming to terms with yourself. And that is the most important thing, I think, is being able to self-identify. And it is confusing when you hear things from other people and like, should I choose this one? Should I choose this one? And that can be even harder on yourself when you're trying to figure out, well, who am I? Because you've thought your whole life you were a certain way. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden you realize you're not that way. And then all of a sudden you're like, I need to figure out who I am. Like I want to be able to feel comfortable in my own skin.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So then you do want to find a term that you're comfortable with. And I think that queer is a good like overarching term, because like sexuality and gender and everything can be fluid. And I feel like it's something that can change over time.
Yeah. And as you build experiences.
Yeah. And you just like inevitably will grow and change throughout your life, and being able to not, I don't know, labels are great, and feeling like you can identify with like a very specific term can be helpful like in that present moment. But I think like you said, what's so great about the term queer is that it allows movement within that, you know, like it can mean so many things. And it can be so many different things for so many different people,
which is so beautiful. Is so nice.
Beautiful. It really is. Like when I think of the word queer, a rainbow is in my brain.
Yes,
totally. The rainbow spectrum.
Like double rainbow.
You can be any color. You can be, you know, whatever color you want to be, and you could be anywhere in the arch. But I think it's interesting too that you mentioned that it's hard, that sometimes you feel like you don't belong, like can't own the term queer as like something that's part of you, and that you're coming to terms with that. Like I think that's like a really challenging thing, and I totally get the whole thing too, where you don't feel like people will see you in a crowd and be like, that girl, she is queer, she's not straight, she's gay, and like I feel that a lot all the time, like feeling like I don't look gay enough. And it's an interesting concept too in general, that we feel like we have to look or like outwardly present ourselves, to indicate who we are and what our interests are. And I don't know.
It's definitely an interesting thing. I feel like we're privileged because we do present as like feminine, right, cisgendered women.
100%.
Yeah.
So it's easier for us, I feel, in like day-to-day world
where we can chameleon.
Yeah, we can chameleon,
exactly.
like job interviews, like just meeting people in the grocery store. Like nobody's gonna assume necessarily that we are queer.
Right.
So that's sort of easier for us in our day-to-day life, but it can also backfire a little bit on us when you're trying to find your way in the gay community, because then people can assume like, oh, you're just straight, or like, what are you doing here? So it is like this sort of thing that you have to grow with and learn about. And like, how sometimes I feel like, how can I make myself stand out? Or like, how can I show people that I'm gay? Like, when I went to New York City with Bella and our friend came, I bought us little friendship rainbow pins so we could wear
mine. I had it on my backpack and it fell off, and I realized the other day and I was devastated. So I just have to wear my rainbow bracelet to indicate
okay, good. Okay, good.
Anyway, sorry I cut you off.
But it's interesting that we have to do things like that to like show other people like, oh no, I am too. But people could see that as just us being allies as well.
Yeah.
Right.
So it is interesting. The coming out process is interesting because it's not one and done. It's always every single person you meet, you're going to have to come out again and again and again.
Yeah. And that's something that I'm still getting used to, just feeling like I deserve to have a voice and quote unquote come out to people. Like that's something that I had to come to terms with for sure. Like just thinking like, I don't know, comparing and measuring the validity of things. And it's so okay for anyone to come out as many times as they want. And I think that's definitely the beauty of the term queer as well.
It's also painful to have to come out again and again and again, because you don't necessarily know how people are going to react. Like each person can react very differently, and they can accept you or they won't. And then that is also a very tough thing, because you might have to move on from that friendship if they don't accept you for who you are, because then you aren't truly accepted or loved as yourself as a whole.
Yeah.
And we were talking about earlier, like it's important to have these conversations because, you know, potentially some young person in the middle of America could listen to this and hopefully it could help them self-identify or come to the gayization that, or make them feel a little more comfortable with like who they are. And Pauline was talking about TikTok, right? And how TikTok,
I think she was talking about how younger people right now have been, there's more comfortableness, it seems, one would think, with younger people right now expressing themselves and figuring things out and like really
certainly
navigating those questions. More exposure. And then I think I brought up like, TikTok I think is a really interesting platform because it's almost feels very it's a very encouraging environment, and it provides, you know, that support system almost in a digital sense, you know, on a social media base that maybe people are not finding in their hometowns or wherever they're growing up or wherever they're living. And we were talking about how like if we had TikTok when we were in high school, what would that have looked like? I mean, we would have figured things out a lot faster.
I feel like really realistically, the only queer people that I had any exposure to when we were in high school was gay men. And
Yes.
that was very little, even so. But I'm sort of jumping ahead a little bit right now. But just I often think about, what if there was more exposure in general, whether that be through social media or through people around me. At when I was a teenager, when we were in high school, if there was more exposure, then I think process would have been totally different. I know for me, and like I feel like when I was having these thoughts and feelings around being attracted to someone who's not a cisgender man, instead of feeling super overwhelmed and scared about what that meant and not knowing for sure if it was a feeling worth exploring and not feeling comfortable like feeling it or expressing it and not knowing how to, like that could have easily been helped just by having some type of exposure.
Yeah. Oh my God. No, that's actually a really interesting point, especially, I mean, I don't know, I would especially say for, you said you knew gay men, but just knowing more people as like youth that were a part of the LGBTQ community, to just understand the variety of like people within that community and within that group. We did not have that at all. And that is a really interesting, and I will note too, I know people who are, as especially like institutions have focused more on working on their DEAI efforts, and the LGBTQ community ties to that a little bit. I mean, it ties to it very much so, but like people who are educators at universities and have like leadership and mentor roles, even for high schools that are queer, the impact that they have felt that they've had on youth just by being openly gay as whatever they identify as, they have, like, I've had so many interesting conversations where they've reflected on the impact that they've had on the youth that they're dealing with on a regular basis. And it's encouraged so many young people to feel comfortable with themselves because they see somebody who's older, is a normal person, has a job, is living their life, doing their thing, and is...
But it doesn't have to be a big thing. I don't have to know for sure how I feel. This doesn't have to be a huge set in stone thing. It's a journey, and it's okay to have questions. And like,
I think it also, if there was more representation from teachers and elders when we were younger, there would have been probably less homophobic slurs thrown around throughout the young crowd.
Oh
like
my God.
If we had like representation to respect in front of us, then it wouldn't have been like, I'm sure even like football coaches in high schools throw out homophobic slurs. That just in turn makes it okay to say. And then it's said between friends, and then that makes everybody experience internalize homophobia to an extreme even more.
We did not have a PC patrol.
No,
at all.
We were monsters.
I mean,
that's how I feel.
Yeah,
you say that's so gay about everything. Like,
yes, I feel like
gay.
In
gay
2006
oh my God.
to like 2009, the term "that's so gay" became huge, huge, and gay used to mean happy, and like that's so sad that all of a sudden it literally became lame. Like I felt like people would be like, "That's so gay" if it was a lame or loser type thing, and then that just way makes you like really try to shove down anything that you're feeling like, well, I don't want to be lame. Like, I just want to fit in. Like, I just want to feel accepted. So I definitely also, it was not until recently, I'm pretty sure in the past or in the last 2 years or so, were there like federally mandated rights to protect people, LGBT people in the workplace. Like it was like,
yeah, no, you're totally
crazy,
right.
like,
yeah, very recent.
Yeah, there was also like a large amount of states that it was just completely legal to let somebody go if they came out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
it was like 42 of them or something like that. It was really such a large number, which is so sad because in the grand scheme of things, it is just a person loving another person. It's not lying, cheating, stealing. It's just loving somebody. Like there's a huge difference between like non-consent and young people with older people. Pedophilia is very different than homosexuality. When it's two consenting adults loving each other, who wants to stop love in the world? Like love makes the world go around. It just like, and as humans and animals, we are creatures of community and we just want to find a community.
Yeah.
And that creates such a divide and so much so just a stab in the heart.
And it's like, I don't know, get a life. Why do you care so much? You know, it's none of your business. It doesn't affect you. You know, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, no, true. What we were talking about earlier was like, okay, what's a human? Literally the simplest terms, what's a human? A human is a soul inside a flesh prison. A soul inside a meat bag.
Meat bag. I was going to say a flesh sack or a meat bag.
Different souls have different plumbing. And it's all the same in the end. So like really, all the plumbing is fun. All the souls are beautiful.
Yes, it is. I love that. Oh my God.
I know. That is
that's so nice. Did you come up with that?
That was how I started realizing my own sexuality was.
Oh my God.
Myself, like, I just feel like all the plumbing is fun and all souls are beautiful.
All the plumbing is fun.
They can be beautiful.
I love that.
All the plumbing is fun. That is so good.
It is just, I'm pretty sure there's a famous quote, it all tastes the same in the dark. Like it doesn't matter really.
I mean, unless it does matter.
You sound like
obviously
a 90-year-old.
But like it doesn't
people
matter.
Have preference.
There's a quote.
Well, I know that's in a 1975 song, but I think they're quoting something.
Probably. I mean, it's true though. I mean, I don't know, whatever makes you feel good, bro.
Yeah.
You know?
Something that I would love your guys' take on, and I would love like other people who didn't go to Catholic school, their take on it as well. Something that I'm thinking about while looking at the past is that I feel like so much of my teen puberty years in school were so taken up with males talking about male sex and males being open about sex and males talking about their pleasure, and sex then equaled male pleasure.
Absolutely.
I feel like our classmates were like, it was just normal that they were disgusting, like sexual, like little toxic masculinity monsters. Like I just remember so much conversation around, and like I think to myself, how much of this is normal? How much of this is normal teenage male development? But okay, we were assaulted by their words time and time again. And these years and years and years of these men who had so much, like, they were so loud and so present and so like dominant about sex and just in general, like their presence was so overpowering sometimes, and it happened to be about sex, that my idea of pleasure and sex was around male pleasure. And my idea of what was validating and like on what was my pleasure was them validating me.
Yes, like the male gaze. Like,
or like you made them feel good. So that's the whole point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's how I started.
Yeah.
That was my main like exposure to sex, was these freaking horny teenage boys walking around being toxic. And it made me think that their pleasure was more important than mine, even if I didn't realize it. I didn't realize it at the time, but like now looking back, like they took up so much space.
So much space. No, you're so right. Like I also didn't even understand for a long time that sex could feel as good for me as like a woman as it did for dudes. And when I had that realization that I should be feeling the way that I am able to feel from sex, if done properly, like is like something that I like. When I realized that I should be feeling the way that I now know I can feel. The whole time. I mean, it blew my mind. And it is, you're so right. And I'm just now reflecting. That's like such an interesting comment, because I'm just reflecting too on conversations amongst, you know, our groups of friends, like as like teenage girls and stuff too. And when it came to sex stuff, it was always talking about the male pleasure and like the like ability to like make guys feel good. And it never us feeling good was like not relevant. And also just not knowing to advocate for ourselves too, that is something that we should be encouraging of in a sexual situation. And not having the space to talk about that as like young women and like young people is really interesting. And you're right, it was just so male dominated and
and we were just like, oh, boys are gross, and like that was it. We just had to accept it. We just had to accept it because these are our friends. These are the people we hang out with. Boys will be boys.
Boys will be boys is such a toxic,
so toxic phrase. I'm like, just looking back at it, and this all comes down to my next thought whenever I go through this thought process is always, well, sex education should be given to everyone. Everyone should get educated on both genital anatomy. Everyone should get education on safety, and everyone should get education on pleasure and consent.
Amen.
Safety, pleasure, consent. Amen. Everyone gets the anatomy.
Let's talk more about pleasure for the ladies. For real though. Oh my God.
It is interesting to me. It was so like, I remember the boys in our high school having competitions of who could wank off the most. And they would count it and tell each other and tell us as the girls in school, like, well, I did it this many times yesterday and guess how many times
you're so right.
And we all never spoke about it or like, whoa, like.
And then if you do have any like thoughts around, you know, like if you're a girl and you want to kiss a girl or want to sleep with a girl, then you're fetishized. And again, it's in his hands. So much of our day was taken up by penises.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
you're so like, I literally remember all of high school being so paranoid about the idea or chance cheers that I would ever kiss a girl or anything, because all I was thinking about was everybody seeing it or talking about it or anything like that. And it's so it's just such a bummer, because it could have been, I don't know.
It could have been so different. Like I definitely was gay in high school. I definitely had crushes on girls, but I didn't realize it at the time.
Totally.
But when I look back at, when I get like notifications from Facebook or Time Hop, like one made me bust into laughter because a girl wrote on my wall and said, "You're totally lesbian gay." And that made me laugh so hard, because I was like, wow, I was, but we were saying it as a joke, you know, but it was probably also because I probably was doing the goo eyes, you know,
you're like,
oh, you're so cute. I just want to spend all my time with you, you know, but it's like,
it's so annoying. I definitely had like crushes on girls. Like I had crushes on boys, but I definitely had some girl crushes for sure. And it's funny too, because I feel like the more I think about it and reflect, more things come back to me, and I'm like, ooh,
totally.
It is.
Oh shit,
that is so
another
one. DJ Khaled.
No,
spitting them out. No, it is so weird to come out and, like, as an older person now, more comfortable with myself, realizing that I do like women.
Yeah.
That I did have crushes on people, but I was fully not aware of it or in denial of it at the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like I didn't even think that was a possible thing. I remember being young and knowing no gay people, no gay representation.
Oh,
there was nobody in my family that had come out.
I can't think of
nobody in our friend groups. There was I don't even think I thought to myself that that was something that was possible.
Weird.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Or weird that we didn't know any gays.
Yeah. Exactly. And like, no, it's so weird. I think, I was gonna point on how this is such a beautiful space that you guys are like opening up for people, because I think that it is so wonderful to relate on these exact feelings. I think that can be so liberating and life-changing for people, because it is okay to not know exactly what you're thinking and feeling. It's okay to be scared. And it is so nice to have these moments of like realization and relating to someone on all of that, because I feel like, and then you can finally do come to the realization and you're coming out and you're owning yourself and owning your identity, but there's still guilt and there's still shame. And now we're talking about it. Yeah. And like that gives it a little hug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You give your younger self a little hug.
Yeah.
We do have to. A part of healing is definitely inner child healing and like telling your younger self.
I thought you were gonna say hugging is I thought you were gonna say hugging is a big part of healing. And I was like, yes, I love hugs.
I love hugs.
I'm a hugger. What can I say?
Bella, I'm sorry. Virtual. Thank you for listening. We're gonna do a part 2 episode. Keep listening.
2 parts, because we have so much to talk about. And thanks again to Pauline for being also our first guest.
She's the cutest.
And
she's a badass feminist.
She is a badass
Read it and
feminist.
weep.
Oh, it's so
Thank
good.
you for having me. Loved it. Love ya.
Okay.
Bye.